Hello, my name's Caroline and I'm a volunteer with the Macular Society. I've been a volunteer for approximately 5 years, and I think probably the best way to tell you about my volunteering work is to talk about my dad. My dad had macular degeneration for many years, and when he was first diagnosed, I read up about it. He became a member of the Macular Society, and I accompanied him on many eye clinic visits and to the opticians. So I had experience of being a relative of somebody with macular disease. About the time that I retired, I was looking for voluntary work, and my dad had a copy of Sideview, and in the copy of Sideview there was an advert asking for volunteers for the Macular Society. So I put two and two together and I went off to do some training for something called Skills for Seeing. Skills for Seeing helps people use their peripheral vision. With macular, you tend to lose your central vision but keep your peripheral vision. So I went to learn how to help people to make the most of their remaining sight. I came back full of enthusiasm, but perhaps lacking a little confidence, so I needed a guinea pig to help me on my way. Well, the first guinea pig I chose was very near to hand. I used my dad. In fact, he was not only my first guinea pig, he was actually my second and third guinea pig, because I went through the training a couple more times just to give me a bit of a boost and a bit of confidence. Surprisingly, it worked with my dad. I wasn't expecting it to, because my dad was 95 at the time and he had some memory problems. So it didn't ever become second nature, but it did work for him a little bit. And in fact, he was able to tell the time on a wall clock in his care home. He lived in a care home at that point. And every time I went over there, he would proudly tell me the time, whether I wanted to know or not. So it worked for him. It doesn't work for everybody, but many people find it helpful. As I was doing that work, I discovered that many people did not know much about macular degeneration until they were actually diagnosed. So I volunteered to act as a speaker for the Macular Society. And I went out to groups telling them about macular disease and just making the whole thing better known. About 3 years ago, I hit what I think I would call the first spanner in the works of my voluntary work. This took place when I had an eye test at the opticians, and I expect most of you are already there working out what that was. Yes, it was my turn, and I was diagnosed with dry age-related macular degeneration. It wasn't a huge shock because I knew about Dad and I tend to follow Dad in matters of sight loss, but it was a disappointment. I came back from that visit and I told family and friends, but I also felt quite sorry for myself, I have to admit. And then I thought, well, what do I do about it? So I decided I would reread some of the leaflets that I had that I'd been giving to other people, leaflets that the Macular Society produces about things like lighting and magnification, about daily living skills, about the emotional side of sight loss. And I read them with renewed interest now. The leaflets are available in various formats from the Macular Society, or you can download them from the website. Another thing I did was to join my local macular group. I had been to an occasional meeting, but I hadn't been attending regularly. I think if I describe my local macular group, many people who attend their own macular group will identify all the same features that I'm about to tell you about, because my local group is very friendly, very welcoming. We usually have a speaker, the speaker's usually well informed, and we learn quite a lot from those speakers. But one of the best parts of local groups is the support that they give each other, so that people who are there are able to support each other because they've been through similar things. My local group also supplies tea and biscuits for us all, and anything that has biscuits in it, I'm afraid I'm there front of the queue. One visit I had to the eye clinic was a little confusing, and it left me with something I didn't really understand, and I didn't know quite what to do. So I rang the Macular Society's advice and information line. I chatted through the problem, I told them all about it, I chatted it through, and they pointed out the options that I had, and they made things a lot clearer for me. So it was good to ring them, and I gained from using that. The advice and information line is available to anybody to ring and just ask, and certainly on my experience, I would definitely recommend it. The second spanner in my voluntary journey was March 2020, and we all know what happened in March 2020. Everything changed, didn't it? And so life was very different. All my voluntary work had been either with the Macular Society or with a care home, so you can imagine all of that stopped immediately. The Macular Society were very quick to start up the groups again. They started them up on the telephone, and that works very well. Our local group still meet every month, third Tuesday of the month, 10:30, and we get on the phone, we greet one another, we exchange news, maybe somebody's got a bit of a story to tell or some information. We hear about any information that's come out from the Macular Society itself. And then we usually have a speaker. We've had speakers about eye health and about health in general, about benefits. But then we've also had a speaker who talked about his RAF experience in Second World War, and another speaker from the Tommy Cooper Society. So we've had all sorts. The major disadvantage to me is, for the groups on the phone, is that you actually have to make your own coffee now. About last June, June 2020 that is, I was asked by the Macular Society if I would consider doing skills for seeing on the phone. I wasn't at all sure that this would work, but I agreed to have a go. I think the emphasis with skills for seeing has changed now, and it is a lot more about helping people in general rather than just the peripheral vision. The referrals that we get, you can listen to their life story to begin with and their story of their sight loss. Then often we can refer people to something like a low vision assessment. Low vision assessments are available locally in most areas of the country, or to services that the Macular Society provide, like the Befriending service or the counselling service. And so we can do all of that as well as looking at the peripheral vision. It's not as easy to do it on the phone as it is to do it when you meet face to face, but we have managed it, and some people have found it very helpful. And one lady has even managed to see the back of her hair when she goes to the hairdressers and they hold up that mirror and say, "This is the back." She can now actually see her hair in the back, which she couldn't before. So that's a great success. Around the same time, the Macular Society were asking for volunteers for their befriending scheme. I didn't know whether I could do that, but I applied and I was accepted. And then they matched me with somebody that they thought I would have something in common with. And I started ringing this lady, and I've rung her every week now for a year. In November, I felt that was going well, so I asked if I could have a second befriendee. And indeed, I've rung that second befriendee every week ever since. And then in January, I think it was, I took on a third befriendee. And so I now ring 3 people every week. And I've learned a lot from the befriendees, and I've, gained a lot of knowledge as well and made some friends. To conclude, I'd like to say that the Macular Society supports everybody with central vision loss. You don't have to be a member, and all their services are free of charge. So if any of the services that I've described would be of help to you, or you think they might be, then please get in touch. And if you fancy being a volunteer, get in touch as well. I'd like to thank the Macular Society for all they do to support me as an individual and me as a volunteer, and to all of you for listening. Thank you very much.